turn your cameras off. And please keep your mics off during the duration of Marco's presentation. And then at the end, we will go over questions. So just to introduce Marco, for those of you that don't know, this is his last webinar with us. He specializes in finance, supply chain, and international business. He's formerly a professor of international logistics. He now develops strategies for value-added products in Latin America, aiding foreign market entry. With a decade of multinational experience, he's been with USADA since 2005, focusing on Mexico and Latin America. So with that, Marco, if you'd like to share your screen and get started.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So I'll share a screen and again, we'll make a test and hopefully you see that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yep, looks good. Sounds good.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. We have a exclusive audience today. So uh, I will make questions. So this will be more a discussion than more than a presentation because we have done several of these seminars. And one thing is to give the information and background that we have, and also is to understand your needs and probably have a discussion and make a more more call to action out of these presentations instead of just providing information. So if you have done these seminars before, I will cover some of the things that we did before, but I will focus more on the questions or what things need to be done or said before trying to export to Central America. So again, by the middle of the presentation, I'll ask you, what your experience or what is your company or what is your interest. So we can, probably have more a discussion on this than again, just a lecture. So just to give context, and we've said and done this before, Central America is a region with 53 million inhabitants, about 1/7 of the US. It's formed by 7 countries that are between Mexico and Colombia. So that, this portion, and you can see that in the map. Here you can see where is Central America located. And let me get the right pointer here. So you have mature markets here, but also, it's an area that has opportunities to continue growth. And there have been some changes happening in the last years, especially in retail. Some are more developed than others, but again, it's a region that needs interest, but also needs commitment. So it go like this or like this. No, it doesn't work anyway. Again, just to give a freshman about the 7 countries, we have different countries, different economies, and one of the things is that usually they're thought of or understood as one region, and everything looks the same. Well, I mean, we all speak Spanish, but there are nuances and differences between each market. Well, you have a Costa Rican economy with a growing middle class. They like good products, but it's a smaller country. Guatemala, it's a large country. They have a food service that is growing, but in general, you will see less. You'll see probably the same market size than Costa Rica, even though they're much larger in population. That is because of all the social, the socioeconomic levels that occur in Guatemala. Salvador, another market that that is increasing urbanization and rising. There have been changes in the organization of the country itself that is, it's evolving, but it's probably not there yet. Honduras, with a contrasting economy, population, and tourism sector that is growing and providing opportunities. Nicaragua, with low-cost labor, and Panama, with the hub and the middle class and a dollarized economy that will give you opportunities. So again, there are different regions, different areas, but it's not they're not, by definition, large markets because of the population that they have. Again, we're talking about 53 million inhabitants in all the region. So if you compare that with another region or country like Southeast Asia or China or Japan, obviously they will be in disadvantage. But if you're looking to develop a market that is closer or that you may have ties to, then it makes sense to develop this area or this region. Now, again, more than providing information, I'll start getting with some questions, and probably I'll open and I'll make 3 pauses. But the first problem or the first hurdle that we've seen from U.S. exporters is, how do I choose a market? I'll give you an example. Company A has been selling well in their state, they're starting to sell regionally, and they decide that they want to export because it makes sense. Why? Because it makes sense to them. First is, are you ready and committed to export? And that is the first question that we ask. You know, you're growing, your business is growing, you have more probably cash, you have more clients, and you have production, discretional production that you can assign to other markets. So you may want to explore another market. My question is, are you committed to learn, understand, and develop this market with all the, again, the nuances that it takes? Or is it just, or are you just exploring opportunities? I mention this because some companies with good potential trying to export to Central America or any other Latin American market get easily distracted if they are not committed to the export process. If they get a good sale, get a good order from Albertsons or a good order from a national retailer, then they just stop all their efforts and then they have to start over. So the first, recommendation is that you are actually committed to export and you have it in your long-term plan as a business. If you want to just give it a shot, and this is true to this market or to any other exports market, then you may have to, you'll have many false starts. So this is the first thing that we ask you, just ready and commit to export. Um, the second question is, do you have working knowledge of the market and the category in that market? Some things that we have found as well is that, they are the leading bean, canned bean brand in the US. They have been in business for 120 years. Everybody loves them. The barbecue, any barbecue in the US will have their beans. But and it makes sense because somebody told them that in Latin America we eat beans. Do they actually know who is in the market? Do they actually know how the beans are, produced, cooked, sourced, or consumed in this market? Because if the answer is no, probably they will have a hard time on the first meeting with a buyer. So one of the things is that they need to understand how their product fares in the exports market, not in the US, but in Central America and South America or Mexico. So that's something that needs to be well considered because in general, US products are well regarded in the US and not necessarily in other countries. I am talking about this Beam brand. I will not mention the name, but they just started trying to export to Mexico and Central America. And it took them 5 years to understand that they didn't understand the market. So they went to step one and they found that they cannot do, barbecuing as, Latin Americans don't do barbecue as they do in the US. The profile flavor is different. The beans in the US are a bit sweeter, and we mash the beans in general. There are some preparations, but also the size of the bean, the cooked bean, is about 30% larger to what is usually consumed in Central America and Latin America in general. So they had to go back to square one, and now they're doing very well, but they lost about 3 or 4 years. Obviously, it was pandemic. But again, the knowledge of the market and the category is very important. And this is something that we ask you to check really, really well. I had a consultation with a good friend. I'm not sure if Bauman is there. And we had this conversation, how does this product fares in your market? What do you think of this? And there were a couple that we thought that wouldn't work that actually can work in the market. But again, you need this understanding on how things happen in the destination market, not in your market. And that's a change of mindset at some point. And we have heard from exporters, successful exporters telling us, I do the product, I don't know anything about marketing. Well, you have to know more about this market because if you're exploring, you have to be more than your market. You have to know more. So that's one of the things that we ask you to do. How much time, and time can be also a driver for exports market. Do you have time to do the calls, to follow up, to wait for a Latin American buyer to ignore your email for a couple of weeks and then kindly remind them, and then again, kindly remind 2 weeks later? Do you have that patience? Do you have the resources and time to do the visits? And even though these markets are closer to, again, Asian or European markets, going down to Mexico, at least it takes, the shortest trip will be 4 hours from Los Angeles. To Latin America, let's say Costa Rica, you will probably have to make a transfer in Houston. So that's about 12, 14 hours. It's not that bad. It's just a day's travel, but you have to travel there. Weather is different, language is different. Once you have the orders and the processing in Spanish and English, manage the regulation and the marketing. And again, I'm not trying to scare you, but it takes time to develop this market in the sales part and also in the order management part. So do you have the time to do it? If you do, then great, you can do the business here. If your time is limited, you will struggle. But if you don't have the time, then reconsider your strategy and either make time or wait until you have this time to develop the market. Know if it's economically feasible. And that is very important because a product sold in the US has one price, but if you have to sell it, ship it, and then distribute it and put a margin to it to one or two points in the chain, then it will be more expensive. Wine, let's make an example with wine. Wine is four times the X Works price. You know, how much you sell it in your winery or in your distillery, it will sell four times higher in Mexico, and probably about five to six times higher in Central America because of the tariffs, all the freights, all the shipments. It's a business of cost per pound per mile. So that's something that you need to consider as well, because again, we have seen many products that are great and could do in the market, but they're just too expensive because there could be a local alternative that is cheaper and it's good enough. If you have the value and you have the brand and you have the follow up, then you will be there. You are able to access these markets because there is a discretion. There is a population or a consumer base that will look for the premium product. Will look for you, but to get all the way down there takes time. And again, I've been saying this many times this time, and I've said it many times in my career. It's not that we're trying to scare you, but we want you to be prepared. So it's not, and it's that philosophy that get ready for the worst, not because the worst will happen, but you will be able to take action for anything that may happen in between. So that's why we give you this type of advice. And finally, how does success looks like? Do you want to be the market leader? Do you want to sell a pallet? Do you want to be in one retail store? Do you want it to be 5% of your sales and have a good margin? How does success looks like? And where we've asked these questions in person to exporters, most of the times they don't know. They just want to do it. But at some point, what is the end goal? Because if you have it clear, then you will have the patience and you will take the time to develop this market. But if it's not clear, the first distraction or the first hurdle that you get, and you will try to explore other market, and you have it over and over and over. And unfortunately, you will not have this success that you crave for. So again, make those 5 questions when you start, developing this market. Now, I want to hear from you. We're not, I mean, we're just starting, but I want to hear from you. What's your experience, or what have you seen, or what questions do you have? Anybody wants to start? Otherwise, I'll start doing it like in school. Who has worked with Central America? What's your experience in Central America? What are your drivers to be here? Be shy. No one? Okay. Well, I'll continue, but Abigail. Oh, Abigail, hi. I owe you information, but yes, it takes a long time. Uh, it does take a long time. Anybody wants to anybody wants to to expand or talk about this? Your experience in Central America. Anybody has been in Central America or sales to Central America?
Hi, this is Abbas. I have been in the meetings, webinars, or in the session we set up, organization put together and met with people from Central America and gave our samples and everything. But to be honest, we never heard from back from them. So
Hmm.
so our impression was either they are very busy or they didn't coordinate anything right. And plus we have no support here from US government for exporting to Central America, except if you're a big company. For a smaller producer, a smaller supplier, there is no help at all. I have,
Hmm.
tried to work with the SBA and everything for exporting, and they just don't do anything. It's very sad,
Hmm.
unfortunately. So what I'm saying is, Central America definitely a great spot for us, but the local help is nothing. It's just, you have get this webinar, you have some information, and that's it, Marco. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for your feedback. And actually, I think we can help. If you can just go with Wusara, we have a program called Fun Match. I don't know, I don't have all the details, but they provide 50% reimbursement of your marketing efforts. And on the other side, we have, I would say, a robust program of inbound and outbound trade missions. And at some point, we did consultations. So if later you want to connect with me, and probably we can go and see what's your case and see how can we assist. Because yeah, sometimes it takes time for them to answer. And if you got a contact, hopefully it wasn't to us, but if it was, please let us know later, so we can reconnect you or probably get feedback directly from the buyers. You have a company, and we can go and call them. You know how the company, they called you, and 90% of the time say, oh yeah, yeah, I saw the samples or I saw their email. I'll go back. So, sometimes they just forget, but it takes a lot of follow-up. But again, I would probably I'll make sure to get your information so I can, or you can go to the wusara.org website, and then
Right.
we can go from there and probably have a consultation, and probably we can have a more one-on-one information on that about
Thank
this.
you. I put it in the
Right?
chat for you. Thank you so much, Marco. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Sure, sure, sure. Now we had another comment, but I cannot see it. Oh, blah, blah, blah. There's another message. No, I don't have it.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's Abigail again. They're saying it's worth nurturing relationships as once established, the partnerships last a long time. A lot of emails, sending samples, follow up, etc.
Yeah, you're right. And again, I get it. Again, I've been working with the US, and I consider myself bicultural. But yeah, we see that even everywhere. You need to put a name to the face, or a face to the name. That's right. That's right term. And sometimes email they do good, but if you get to know them in a trade show, or even in the US, one of the things that I'm talking later is that the qualified importers in the region, they do the trade shows in the US. So if you're able to to get them, contact them, and I've been talking about this before. The agricultural trade offices in Costa Rica, and actually that's what I'm going to do with Abigail specifically. We ask for contacts for importers. Two of them actually replied, but what we will do is that we'll get a contact to you directly, so you can contact the ATOs. And they travel to the US quite often. Actually, they had a large delegation going to the Latin America Food Show in Miami. I think it was last week. And we know that at least four states, or four countries took delegations going to that market. So again, I think it's more about you know, finding what's the most efficient way of doing it, but it's not going to be the most efficient way of doing it, to do it. It's not going to be just emails. It's going to be going to a reception on this trade show, or attending an inbound trade mission and getting to know one buyer who in turn knows another buyer. But you're right, Abigail, it takes time. And these relationships are long term. For us, we've been doing this for 18 years. Well, I've been doing this for 18 years, but we did a trade mission about a month ago, and we were missing one buyer. So we had to recruit one buyer. So I just shout out to my contacts, and one of them had a friend of a friend, and I knew who this guy was, but I'd never connected personally. But that reference helped me to get a hold of this buyer and send him to the US for a produce mission. So again, actually, we're talking about this next week in our Usara mission, trying to reinforce these missions, get more contacts, and probably have you know more about these missions. And if we have the mission in, let's say, Oregon, and you're in Idaho, so you can have so you can travel there and meet these buyers, because sometimes we're limited to certain states. But yeah, we're trying to create a marketplace. Do we have anything else, Kelsey? Oh, Sean, go ahead.
Hi. The last inbound trade mission in California was very successful for us. Meeting with a buyers from Mexico and also from Costa Rica, and we are moving forward most likely with our milk product with a buyer from Mexico, and then with milk product and with wine for the buyer in Costa Rica for a wine program for Walmart. And I just wanted to share that one thing we've experienced is that we will get someone that if you send someone an email, it may take a week to respond. But if you send the same information on WhatsApp, we almost get an instantaneous response from any buyer we're talking to. Ever since COVID, it seems like if you don't have that buyer's cell phone on WhatsApp, it's going to be a week. If you do, a day, 2 days on correspondence. And
Good.
And then also too, we've been working on a contract with PriceSmart for the last year and a half plus in 13 countries in Latin America, and that is finally moving forward both on a branded and private label program. And it seems like anywhere, especially in Central and South America, that the larger the retailer, the longer it takes. And that's something they approached us on a private label program. And because of the delays, they apologize, and they're going to bring our branded products in the meantime until we finalize the private label contract.
Great, thank you for sharing, Sean. Actually, I'll mention this to Antonio that I believe you met, so we can follow up with you. But yeah, again, it's good to know that actually we're doing good for you. But yeah, and one of the things that we're trying to do is to reinforce our contact base. So again, if you have a contact with the retailer, we can have that access. The WhatsApp part is very important, and it's like a courtesy. Is oh, can I get your cell phone? Can I WhatsApp you? Yeah, sure, just do it. And I think that will create this rapport that usually an email will be hard to do. But it's that personal relationship, and I'm glad that you're moving forward. We'll follow up from our side as well. Um, so yes, basically it's that. I'll continue with that. Anybody has any more comments? We can have more discussion. I mean, I have more things that we can cover here. But so far, again, thank you for your. Oh, I did something. I don't know what did I do. Oh, here we go. So I'll continue a bit with this. And again, let's see. Here we go. Now, the retailers, you mentioned that, Sean, is very clear, and the retail landscape is changing, as I mentioned that before. You have PriceSmart, which is associated, but is not. It's the Costco has some participation with that. They have the same products, similar layout, but they have some other products that they can bring in. As you mentioned, you have that relationship with them, and they're good. I mean, one of the things is that this market is small, is differentiated, between each country, but they're starting to regionalize. The retailers are starting to regionalize, and you have a leading local brand, but you're starting to have regional or global brands coming in. Costa Rica, for instance, you have, Automercado, Pali, Mega Super. We mentioned those before. But one of the things that happened last year is that Grupo Calleja, which is in Guatemala or Salvador, I forgot, but it's in one of those two countries. Grupo Calleja is one of the leading retailers, a local retailer, and they bought another retailer in Colombia. So they have a purchasing power for Colombia, which is about 35 million people, and central, and their country, again, I forgot it, I think it's Guatemala. Let's say it's another 10, 15 million. So their number of stores is bigger, so they have more purchasing power, and they are exploring new products coming in. Actually, that's one of our objectives for this year, to get a working relationship with the Grupo Calleja, with this retailer, on behalf of Usara, so we can invite them eventually to these trade missions that you took part, or the mission that we do in Mexico City, so they can have. We want to create a marketplace, and you can have again a more efficient way of contacting these people. But yeah, retailers are moving forward. You have some, as I mentioned, national or international, and these guys actually know how to do business. And you're right, it happens all across the board. They should be well organized. They should have all the systems in place, but they're not as, the technology is not 100% as efficient as in the US. And I'm being, you know, I'm being nice to some of the US retailers because sometimes they can mess up too. But these people, what we have found is that they have a lot of work, and sometimes they have dedicated purchasing groups for specific categories. Some other times they're the they're the imported products buyer. So they have to take care of produce and wine and seafood and meat. So they go crazy with that. And at some point we need to well, we need to hold their hand and keep following up. And sometimes it takes time. There's an example in Mexico and one in Colombia. It took 2 years to get the product come in. So again, you need patience here in this market. Now, going back to how do I do the client? How do I define it? And you'll see that in these meetings. And probably, I'll go back to the people that we're talking to now. You know, during that conversation, if they have good knowledge of the industry and the category, regardless of where they're at, they can tell you how it works specifically in their country. They have good knowledge of the region, but they know how it works in the US. They know who the market leaders are. They know what are the capacities of those companies. So those are the ones that you need to pay attention, because we have seen that, and it happens everywhere. You have the new importers, or the more improvised importers that started a year ago or 2 years ago, that either they started a business are doing well. They got lucky with one product and they want to explore. They are good if you take your you make the due diligence, if you take care of of understanding, and if you really want to develop them along the way. Or you can have somebody that really knows how to market, but their negotiation will be much more strict, and they will really, they will make it work for your buck. So again, that's how you define this client. And one thing that happens in retail more, we have seen that in Central America happening more, especially after pandemic, is that you have the long-term buyers, the ones that have been there for 20, 30 years, and they retired. It was very strange. In 22, 23, all the buying, the experienced buyers went, they retired, and now you have new buyers. They are more aggressive, they are more modernized, but sometimes they don't know this category. So you have to, again, let them know and probably teach them how it works. So be careful with that. And again, in these one-on-one meetings that we usually do, we just finished one trade mission. So probably please make sure that you subscribe to Busero.org, so you have the information about the events that we have. And again, we have a marketplace, we have a trade mission coming to Mexico in December. The registrations are closed, but we may accommodate one or two. We need to actually define that we will set up. But yeah, that's the first. You need to feel and know that they know the industry. The second is, get hard facts. How many years in the market? What clients? Ask for references. We have, there are companies that could be, again, improvised, and I don't want to judge anybody. But when you ask for references and they're shady, there's something wrong. We all work in trust and we all want to trust people, but it's a business. So emotion has to be left, as secondary. Emotions actually make us develop the relationships, but make sure that you have the facts and get the references. And if you ask for references, how easy do they come? If people hesitate, or they start elaborating too much, probably they're not that solid. So make sure that you're right, talking to the right people. Again, if they're familiar with the US market, they know who you are, they know the company, or they know a product that is a leading brand, and probably could be a reference in your category. Is the information that you ask formally available. And this is more for credit references. It's customary to ask for financial statements. I know in the US it's not that common, but the thing is that in Latin America, we don't have as many credit agencies as you may want to think. Our financial systems and our legal systems are separate. So the information, you need to ask for it. And if they are open to give it, well, then you can start working around it. Obviously, it takes time and you need to work the relationship and you need to move forward with the negotiation and all that. Also, one of the things that we found, and this is probably the soft skills, how comfortable are they with difficult questions? What happens if you have a payment problem? What happens if it gets stuck in the border? What happens if the product doesn't sell well? If they are, the better relationships are with people that are, that know what to do because probably they've had it before. And we want somebody who has learned with somebody else that learning with you. But if they're comfortable with these questions, then it's easier to continue than just getting, 2 hour speech of how things will not happen, or that you can trust. And sometimes, God has come in these conversations. So just make sure that you have that and they can react, or, how do you react to the facts, or the things that may happen in an export process. And if they have a plan, or this just looks like an opportunity. Now, I want to be clear here. They may have a plan and they may be looking for your product, but there are times where they have met your product and they see the opportunity afterwards. Actually, we have got calls 1 or 2 years later. Hey, do you remember the company I met from California? Or do you remember the company that sold onions in Colorado? And then they see the opportunity. So sometimes these trade missions look like, it's not the right contact, but they probably, you were not looking for him and he was not looking for you. But once you know them and once they know your product, at some point they go in, oh, a buyer asked me for this product, and I remember a company I met in a trade mission in California 2 years ago, and then we get the call. And we have many of those. So again, it may look like sometimes the conversations don't lead anywhere, but those are the ones that are good surprises for us. And we have sold snacks and sodas and all those things, because not us, but the companies that work with us, just for a contact that did something else. So that happens, and that has happened. Now, with this part, do you have anybody has a comment or question of what I'm saying now? I can't see the chat box. I don't know why. Because is there any question that I can?
Not right now.
Okay.
Not that I see. Nope.
Good. Well, anybody has a question or a remark or anything, anything you want me to expand on this? Please give a second. I know you're shy. Don't worry. All I can see are your initials. I see BC.
Did you have a presentation up?
I did, but not now.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
I'm just it's just me here. So
Okay. I was looking at a different screen
thanks.
anyway.
Thanks, Abigail. Yeah, I'll continue. So yeah, we're about 10-20 minutes to here we go. And we talked about how promotions work, and I'll go faster. And again, you need to sell the product to have promotions. We've talked about this. This is traditional, and I've heard many times that Latin America is what the US was 10 years ago. It's not. But there are things that apply, especially in technology. I think technology wise, we can say that media is not 10 years behind, but you see a combination of modern technology and media, what you have in the US. We have influencers, we have TikTok, we have all that. But there's still, a lot of retailers and the importers in turn, they rely on the weekly, flyer, or they still do billboards. That's something that, as a company, we don't do much, but we were asked by one of the categories that we work with, actually your consumer actually is more sensitive to billboards than to post in social media. So it's a combination, and it's a bit harder to what you have in the US. I think what has happened in the US in general is that things are more streamlined. and technologically efficient. Here you have a combination because the society in the Latin American countries is quite different. You have many socioeconomic levels. So at some point, your products, if it's a commodity, if it's more on the commodity market, you will have to service all these markets and all these consumers. So the how you manage the media for each one of them could be more complicated. So again, it's not a one-stop shop or just what works in the US may work in Latin America. So if you are selling products here, we recommend first you start small and test, how you get your promotion, how the promotion is managed in Spanish. And actually we've had that. We were running a program and the logo was outdated. So we had to go back, stop, and then do the new one and adjust it. So make us a small investment at the beginning, make sure that it works. Use the translating services. Our phones are the best translating services you can find now. um, work this with your client. What type of consumer and media it will be more effective for the type of consumer that you're working with. Again, we have a program with Rice, and they told us that they need a big advertisement on in public transportation because most of the consumers don't have a car and they see the car going stopping by. So actually it's very efficient, and we never thought of that. uh, Billboards in central markets or the big markets in Central America are efficient as well. The flyers are efficient as well. The demo girl, is still, is still used in these markets. A demo will cost you $50 per day, so it's convenient and probably cheaper than in the U.S. But it's a good way to attract a consumer, especially with impulse purchases. Again, it's something that probably in the U.S. is so expensive that you don't do it anymore. But here in Mexico, you can do it. You can do tastings, you can do wine tastings, and the sommelier will cost you $70 per day, and they can cover 4 or 5 different consumption points. So again, just understand what are the main markets and work with your importer. Just make sure that investment don't go to their margin, and they actually do promotional activities. And we recommend don't spend more than 10% of the sales in promotional investments. First question is, how do we measure this investment versus results? Do I get return on investment? Do I get consumers per thousand? Or how do I reach this? When you launch, is not that clear. So in launch, probably the first 3 months, you have to wait and see how it works. Just have a confined and very, uh, you have a very clear budget for that. And then you can start measuring. Okay, we did this. What did I get? Obviously, you'll hear that you get recognition and brand exposure, but how do you measure that? How many contacts did you have? How many sales did you have? But obviously, that's something that comes down the road. And obviously, you're business people, so you know how to measure this. Now, um, one thing that you need to understand is also who has done this before. What examples are in the market that are successful? And these can come from exporters of small companies. So you mentioned that you are with SBA. Talk to the people. Talk who's had experience with these markets. What did you do? If you have a local chapter, or even with Wusara, even though we make one-on-one meetings between buyers and importers, sorry, buyers and exporters. Something that I don't see much is exporters talking to the fellow exporter. How did you do? What did you do to work in this market? Have a reference from your peers that sometimes are people that you don't know, and probably are people that are not in the same category as well. We rely on our competitor, and we all love our competitors, and we're very nice to each other. But maybe you will have a different point of view if you go to another industry like produce or added value or frozen. They have different hurdles and different and different supply chains, so they can help you. Aside from the product, how did they do, and what can I apply to my product? And finally, just make sure that you have a plan, a financial plan. It's the hardest to do. That's something that we have seen companies lacking of, to have a plan. And just try to copy your statement from the US Just try to make a plan on how much you want to sell, how much investment you're planning to give, how much time you want to give, and how long do you want to see if it works or not. Again, there are categories that takes time. There are other categories that will not work. You know, we had a seltzer company that started during pandemic. They did very good, but then that category won't, it just disappeared in Mexico and Colombia actually. They continue to sell. They're not selling as much as they did, but they actually remained in the market. And it's one of those rare and good successful stories. But again, you need to see how things move. We had some elections in Latin America this year. How does that affect? We've been talking about exchange rate as well. One of the things that happened, and again, this is Central America focused, but just see what happened in Mexico. The exchange rate increased 15% overnight. Now all your products are 15% higher. How will the market react to that? What does the embassy has to say about this? Fortunately, we didn't have many impacts on that, but that's something that you need to see and read the news. And if you have a news feed, just put, the country that you have in target in Central America or whatever market, and just see how news are. So you have, repeating, and you are familiar with what is happening in that market. Digital, just make sure, if it makes sense. It's very efficient. It's more effective. You invest less when you go digital than when you do traditional media. And something that we have seen in the US is that our clients in general and some companies are just taking off traditional media, that is printed media or flyers or whatnot. They're moving out of it completely. They're doing everything on a website or on a QR code, NFC, all that. But here, just make sure that you have a balance, and they're efficient. But how do you get in contact with people that may not have a good camera, or they will have limited access to internet? Again, they're effective, but you need to measure results and make a decision how much you take into digital and how much you do in traditional. Influencers is a problem because they're not measured just as in the US. The algorithms with Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok, they're different. So here you have more engagement, you have smaller communities, and you have influencers that are will go less for the clicks and will go more for the community. So just make sure if you take a decision on an influencer, just don't go with the most, with the most popular one. We had a proposal from one of our clients to use an influencer, and he was a rapper, and he was advertising the rapper lifestyle with guns and cars and girls, and it was far away from what we wanted to do as a brand. So, and he had lots of a big community of followers, but we just decided not to. So again, make sure that they have the right tone and they connect with your consumer more than with your product. If you have an energy drink, just be careful because things are different. Again, we're similar, but we're different. How do they interact with my product? And this is especially with new to market companies. You can have a good digital campaign, but your product is not there yet. So you have to time and make sure that your product and your campaign are connected, so you don't lose money or you promote a product that will not be there. We've heard that before. Oh, it's great. Where can I find it? Well, 6 months from now, maybe. So just make sure that the information is correct and you have synchronized your media with your product. I've talked before about retail marketing. The retail marketing refers to the websites from the chains, and the digital advertisement managed by the retailers directly. It could be necessary, but if you can move out of it, we recommend that you do it. Why? Because it's very expensive. The retailers found a new profit center with retail marketing. So they charge you for advertising in their official Facebook page or their official website. But they charge you, and they charge about 3 times higher than any other format. Now, what we have seen, and obviously we're very respectful of copyright, But we have seen, let's say you have Costco, and the official Facebook page will charge you $6,000 per post. This is actual information. But then somebody just created, a Facebook page called the Costco Lady, and she's about 1/3 of the cost, and she has about 5 times the community. So that actually has happened in all across Latin America. You have the Costco Lady, you have the Carulla Lady, you have those influencers that are actually they're anonymous, but they're good outlets. But just make sure that you have a good investment with the retailer and other alternative channels, which are popular now. And the one that I've heard is social media used in Central America. Actually, I heard once, do they have cell phones in Central America? But let's just pass that one. But social media is used in Central America, yes. And actually, we use more Facebook and Instagram than any others. TikTok is used, YouTube is used for kids. But on the business advertising part, social media part, that what we recommend is using more Facebook and Instagram and less TikTok and YouTube, which I know is different than in the US. So actually, we're running short of time. So again, basically, just we talked about this before. The marketing tools that you can use, and this material will be available, by the way. But this is the information that you can find. And again, marketing support could be done through the commercial part, discounts, sampling, product demonstrations that are negotiated with the buyer or with the client. Participate in trade shows, both outbound and inbound, going to Central America or doing this American trade show, which just happened, or do ANTAD in Mexico City. You have a lot of Central American buyers going there, and just work your market. And well, basically, we just covered it. So again, I'll just leave for discussion for the last minutes that we have. Let's see, where were we? Okay. So that was my presentation. Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments? While I have you, thinking of your next question, we have this Latin American outbound trade mission in December. Again, the registrations are closed, but we'll make sure if you're interested, send an email to usara.org. I think we can accommodate one or two more companies. That is from December 3rd to the 5th, or the first week of December. And we're coming to Mexico City and Monterrey. We are planning one-on-one meetings for each company. So you would meet with about 15 prospects. We would do trade visits and also do a couple of market seminars. That is for Mexico, but we are bringing Latin American buyers too. So it's similar to what you saw, Sean, but basically we're doing that on an outbound perspective. What else do we
Yeah, and
have, Kelsey?
I actually just looked. It starts on December 3rd through December 6th, and we have just a few spots left open. So
Yes, that'd be great. We are planning on the 2025 program already. So we will have trade missions coming to Idaho. We are doing the ANTAD trade show, which is the National Retailers Association trade show in Mexico. But we have traffic from Central America as well. So if this is your target market, or you're considering Mexico and Central America, this could be an interesting option. And also we are doing that same outbound mission next year. So again, please contact us, and I hope that we can have more contact with you, and by all means, ask us for more information. So yeah, I'll leave it for questions. We have 5-10 minutes for questions. Anybody? Well,
well, if no one
it was
has any questions, we could. Oh, sweet.
I have a quick
Great.
question. Sorry, I have a quick question. So the U.S. has a free trade agreement with Costa Rica, excuse me, and Panama, right? Are there any others for Central America that are in discussion?
actually, most of Central America has free trade agreement. It's called
Oh,
CAFTA, Central America Free Trade Agreement.
Oh, okay.
And I think in general, they're, free, tariff free. But yes, yeah, we see that over, in the region.
Okay, but it just their import duties on alcohol probably are pretty
Mhm.
high. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to go back, I think I covered that on the first seminar on the taxes per country. I'm not sure, but you can
Yeah.
consider 25 to 35% of tax
Yeah.
to do that. So yeah.
Okay. I might have to go back and check with ask some questions for some of our potential importers.
Sure.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Now there's something. How can I get a consultation? Well, we don't have it, actually open, but you can just email me and we can set up a call. 30-minute call. I'll put the. Can you? I don't know how this, the chat in this device works. I'm sorry for that. But,
Well, I'm going to send up a follow-up email that'll have Marco's email address with it.
Yeah.
So that'll work. So once this is over, I'll send a follow-up email before the end of the week. I just got to edit the video quick, but yeah, shouldn't be long.
Sure. Sure. And again, any general information we'll be happy to provide. Obviously, specific information that it's hard and tricky because we need to provide, equal opportunities to all the USARA members. So that's hard. So we will direct you probably, to participate in one of our events in Mexico or Central America. But again, casual email, we'll be happy to follow up, and apologize if it took me longer to respond this couple of weeks, but we had back-to-back missions, so it was a kind of busy week, kind of busy month. But anyway, good. Well, from my side, I think that's all. A pleasure, and I look forward to meeting you in any mission that we do, either in the U.S. or in Latin America. More than happy to help, and thank you, Kelsey. We finished. We're done.
Yes, we're all done. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure learning so much from you over the past few months. And just as a reminder, all of his webinars that we've had this past year are on our website. I'll also link that in the follow-up email. But other than that, I think that's it. So thank you all so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a wrap. Bye.
Thank you.